Have you been alerted? Hello world.
Oh,
Is your YouTube alert going off? Because we are live.
yeah, we
We
are.
are.
Do you know how you get one of those snazzy YouTube alerts?
Tell us.
Oh, you could subscribe to this pretty snazzy channel,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it'll pop up and let you know.
If you love just mashing buttons, go down there and mash that subscribe button, mash that like button, um, and you'll be able to join us on days like today when normally we go live at 10:43ish. That's 10:30
Yeah.
Hollis time,
Yeah.
Mr. Standard. But now we're actually like almost exactly an hour behind schedule.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's what we do.
That's right. Schedules.
Schedules. Everybody on
Get
the West
this.
Coast be loving it. So hopefully we have
Yeah.
a lot of West Coasters pile in tonight. So welcome, or welcome back to Bad Publicity. It is our L5R Thursday night adventures. We're making good pace, but we're walking to school uphill both ways as we're going through this core set slow and steady. There's a lot going on, guys, right? World's just finished up. PAX is now going to inject some time there. A whole country of America is going to be shut down for a week to give thanks. So we have problems scheduling there.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
What do you mean?
shut down for a week. I mean, okay, we'll take it. I mean, you say shut down for a week. I say get all the best cyber deals for like 3 days. That's fine. Like whatever, however you need to convince yourself we celebrate this holiday.
Yeah. It's cool.
I mean, most of them, if you have dual monitor, you can be watching like BP on one screen and then like cyber shopping on the other, right? Like,
Oh my God.
No.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
good. It's
maybe
good.
we need to have our own special like Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
Cyber Monday sale. What will we sell, Jameson? Our opinions. I can be swayed with what I think about certain clans for $5.99 per subscription. Like I got it.
That's it.
Easy.
All the bounties.
Easy.
So yeah. Anyway. So we're
Wow.
talking about so what are we talking about today? So now that we're trudging, we're gonna work through this course set.
Oh, John.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I'll jump us back on the schedule. So
Thank you,
last time we recorded, we did the Crab Dynasty cards, and so today we're gonna finish up the second half of the Crab Clan and go over the Crab Conflict cards. Which again, as you mentioned, after Worlds, some of those are pretty relevant. Some of the events that happened at Worlds. So there's gonna be some exciting chatter when we get to certain select cards. So. Other cool things that happened is everyone got new roles.
Yep.
Yep.
That is true. The shift.
Yeah. So if you haven't checked on the FFG page or seen that really nice graphic that's been popping around in the L5R group, don't be awkward and show up to your next event with last week's role. That's so last week. We're all on new things now. New
Would it be
keepers
3,000
seekers.
and late? You know what I mean?
Right.
3,000 and late.
So-
So you're in the future, but you're still late. That's crazy.
Oh,
What?
Yeah,
I
so
think
make sure that deck build correctly. So then try to figure out what some of your Hatamotos are thinking when they pick their roles. So it's good. Delve in there.
My cut and paste skills. Just Crab Conflict cards. I should say in the description. Thanks, John. I just changed it. It did say Dynasty. Cut and pasting, man.
Yeah.
Cut,
good-
paste,
good-
copy, replace.
Good help is hard to find these days.
Dude, you're telling me,
It's
man.
So I guess, does anyone else have anything to want to add? Are we ready to dive in and go ahead and start ripping through some of these cards?
Let's get into this. Let's do what we
Oh, Hollis, we can't hear you. No,
No,
no.
Before I jump in, I
There
wanted
we
to say that I actually I really love just before we go in, I really love the crab conflict cards. If for no other reason, but because I feel like they lend themselves really well to like clans. I feel like they lend themselves really well to like clans like Scorpion and a few others that we'll talk about later.
Eventually.
Eventually. So actually, this is me personally. When I looked at like a list of looking at the core set, the faction that I like thought had the best splash cards, Crab was near the top of my list because some of these are really freaking cool, and I'm excited to talk about them.
Cool. Hey, real quick, I want to add, if some of you guys who might have watched a couple of our past episodes, you might have noticed that a lot of them were just like me and Jameson. Hollis came up in her new Dynasty flop, so we were able to bring him back out with some fade on him. So we'll see how long he gets to hang out before he cycles out and has some other adventure he has to go do.
Put some fade on that guy.
Good luck.
Keep him around.
I am a seeker role, not a keeper role. Just FYI. Clearly problematic. Clearly not the best tier, but it's fine.
And then my little interject is still, hey SodaStream, I'm still drinking you and have not seen anything yet.
It's not gonna happen, man. I don't think it's ever gonna happen.
Hey, if anything, I'm persistent.
Okay, you're right. I mean,
yeah,
and consistent.
There's something.
Great. So yeah. So that happened. So anyway,
defend the wall, man. Let's go, province. Crab province.
We got there.
I tell you that it's.
I knew we were
I'll start you
about
off, okay, Corey? Here we go. Crab. Under the province, crab.
Okay.
Defend the wall. It is earth. That's important, and it's strength 4.
Okay. And what does it do?
Oh. It is a reaction. After you win a conflict at this province, resolve the ring effect of the conflict as if you were the attacking player.
Pretty cool. So initial gut reaction when I saw this card was, man, that's a pretty cool ability to be able to trigger and fire the ring off as the attacking player. I've not really had this fire off too many times as I played it. And sometimes I've kind of always wished it was just a regular Ancestral Lands or Entrenched Position, because it's a lot harder or a lot easier to keep alive than the Strength 4 province. And I think also some of the issues I came across is just where do you put it? Because a lot of times the Earth provinces is easy to go like, oh, this goes under my Stronghold. With Defend the Wall, that doesn't necessarily feel like the right choice. Which leads you with something else random you're putting in your Stronghold. And so then this is one of those provinces that may never get hit during a game. So I don't know. My initial impression of this card is it's not bad. It's not you need to play this with every crab deck. I think it's real heavy on like just preference. Like I don't think it's wrong to play it, but I don't think it's always the right answer to play with this card. I think the other Earth provinces might be better choices.
H?
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, Earth provinces, like, at least the ones we're aware of right now from the core set, right? They don't usually have an activated effect. They basically are the neutral ones, very bland, but they're designed to be what I feel like is a meta call based on the weaknesses for the deck you're playing. You don't have a lot of military? Fine. A card like Entrenched Position would be a fairly decent card on your Stronghold when you have a fairly good political strength overall for your characters, right? Like that's just sort of common sense and how the game is like balanced in a way around those Earth provinces. It's cool to know that Crab has an Earth province that does have a reactionary ability, but it doesn't quite pan out, I think, on paper the way you would like. I think when you look at it, you want to say, sure, like I'm defending. So when my opponent attacks this province on I would not assume you put this on your Stronghold. So you would think, oh, when my opponent attacks this province, okay, now I'm incentivized to win this conflict, even if even if it's just by a little bit, right? Because like you don't need to necessarily overcommit to try to avoid the break, because that's irrelevant. But you want to try to gain this additional advantage for winning this conflict, and I feel like your opponent, knowing you would gain the ring effect also, is doing the exact same thing. And I feel like this is a province that like just spells out on both sides overcommit. And maybe that's good. Maybe that plays into a strategy. If you're Crab, maybe that plays into a strategy where you give a little extra and your opponent has to give a lot more to make sure they win this conflict so you don't get the ring effect. But ultimately, I don't know. I feel like if my opponent is going to attack, if my opponent sees his province and doesn't just effectively bounce away immediately, they're probably pretty confident they're going to win the damn thing. In which case, I never gain this effect.
And to kind of add to that a little bit too, is sometimes Crab doesn't necessarily need to win the conflict. They just need to prevent you from breaking the province.
Yeah.
And this effect only triggers if you win. So again, it can kind of trick you into overcommitting too many resources when that's necessarily what you want to do. You just want to keep the province alive to make your opponent bounce and stall and keep buying you more and more time to eventually win the attrition game. So, and then there's also just the off chance that you don't care about the ring, that the ring that they're picking isn't really that important or isn't really going to do a whole lot if you win it. So now you just have a strength 4 Earth province, which kind of feels like a waste for an Earth province that has an effect or a reaction that's not really that big of a deal if you manage to trigger it.
It almost feels like this would have been amazing if you won, you would get to choose to resolve the ring effect of your choice, right? Like that would be incredible.
I think I would like this a lot better if it didn't matter if you won. Just if this province isn't broken, you can trigger the ring effect. And I know technically by the wording on the ring, the winner gets to claim the ring. But if it had a way of taking it, kind of like what Pilgrimage works, like if you don't break Pilgrimage, you don't get to trigger the ring. But the Crab one had an ability where like you take the ring and you trigger it as the attacker if they don't break it. So I guess probably like game balance wise, it didn't work out quite that way, or maybe there could be like a wording issue why they have it, but as it is now, it's kind of meh.
I think other than the fact, Hollis, that we're both going with the the 3/4 zip up hoodie thing today, we're having nothing in common. I don't know about guys. I think Defend the Wall is, I think you're almost underrating it. I feel like you're sleeping on it a middle because I think it plays very, very well into the Crab theme deck. It being a Earth province, I think it's an easy choice, kind of over the other Earths that are available to you. The Earth is kind of like there's no real crazy ones that stand out to me.
Yeah, but they matter. I mean, a lot of games where you're trying to win, you're doing the military win, and you have to take their final prop, like their stronghold. You have to factor it in because it's like certain clans, like, oh, I'm attacking Crane. Well, they probably have +5 against military conflicts on their stronghold, which means that I need to swing in with at least like 11 or 12 military or be able to get to that, not counting any defenders they have to be able to win. And that forces you to have to commit more, which can cause problems. Because if you don't win, you've committed a lot of resources to this, and then your opponent can easily counter. And some games come down to, can I beat your stronghold?
Yeah. And
knowing what you have on that there like makes a difference.
But here's the other part of this that I like. This is a reaction that hangs around.
Sure.
It's not like a reaction, hey, on reveal, and then it's not really considered anything going on after that, right? Like if they can't break, then it's going to trigger again. It's going to trigger again, right? Next time they go at it. So if they are coming in for a look and they run into this and they haven't sent a good amount of people, I mean, let's remember that Crab is defense. So this plays right into what Crab does, So I think it's just you're getting that good synergy that if they're not committing and if they're going to just, double check something, that ring effects, don't overlook, going in and not breaking a province and just getting a ring effect. Because that's what this game, like, I mean, hey man, it's the game of 5 rings, and if you can start, controlling those rings or using those rings ability, you are in good shape.
Yeah, Infinity Golf.
So
anyway,
and the other thing too is that, I mean, like, everyone that's probably playing this game right now, when they're making their decks, they constantly have this card right here sleeved all the time, ready to be splashed into faction. And is this not technically like another display of power that you can have in?
Well, you still have to defend it and win. So display of power, you don't have to defend.
No,
you
but I'm just saying it's the same. It's giving you the same result, right? Like you're still being able to scoop the ring ability.
Yeah, but you have to work a lot harder for it.
But it's off turn though. And it's in a, like, so if this was in any other faction, I would be like, blah, garbage. But it's in the defensive faction, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Policy,
if you
practicing what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, I think if you see more things, like, if you find decks that make benefit of things like Borderlands fortification or stuff that buffs the provinces, or has other ways to make the provinces harder to take, and allows you to kind of like buff it up to where it feels like an Earth province, I think I would like this a lot more.
Yeah. So I think that as the game, I think right now, I think that you're playing with this card in Crab because our choices are kind of, limited. But, I think that's also good and bad. Like, you have to be careful right now. Like, if it's your first turn or second turn and you're hitting a province and you haven't seen this yet, and like I said, if you're going in for just a quick look, that can really, screw you down. If you're ready to commit cards or get a battle in there, and then Crab's going to be able to pop the ring early on you from underneath your nose. So I think this is good, and this is a good homing Crab right now. As provinces flush out, that could change, but I'm going to stand behind Defend the Wall and the Brotherhood of the Night's Watch.
I very much feel like Earth provinces in the game that exists with just core, until we get, quite a few more options, right? I feel like there's only one of two ways. Granted, I guess you could say this about any like collection of provinces, but this is especially clear for Earth provinces. Corey and Jameson, I hope you guys are seeing the same thing I'm saying. You either choose the Earth province because A, it is the buffed province for what you lack in, and it's on your stronghold, or B, you don't have one at all because you are double splashing another province of like the same elemental type.
Right.
Like that tends to be very, very common. I'm seeing, like, if you're Phoenix, you're gonna play is it 2 water now? Maybe. I don't know. Like if you're another faction, you're gonna try to play your 2 water, your 2 fire, your 2 whatever.
No, they're not a seeker anymore.
They're a keeper.
They're a keeper. It's Crane. It's Crane, Dragon, and Scorpion who got seekers this go around.
Got you. So basically, if you're a seeker, you are probably going to try to splash a double of whatever that elemental type is of that province, because it likely means you don't need to include Earth anymore. The provinces you have are all what I would just as a blanket statement call reactive provinces. They're not just like you get a strong defense in like a certain like skill. It's pretty much, all right, you gain this extra benefit from this province that's to you more beneficial. Here's your extra shameful display like mirror. But like in this case for like Crab, this is really weird because you have to have Earth, but it's like reactionary, and so it's like, well, are you gonna, like, what's the plan? Is it better to have political? Like, it's better to have the political Earth card as opposed to this in your deck if you have to choose one. So I don't know. Yeah. I honestly don't know. I think that the card is a very fine card.
Yeah. Again, I don't think it's bad.
You have ways to buff on defense. You don't have to send a lot of guys. I think it's good. I think this, like I said, if this was in any other faction, we wouldn't be talking about it this long. But but it's being in crab, it really plays into their defensive strengths, and it can be a good little surprise pop if someone's not expecting it. I think even when we flush out with provinces, you might see this one peek in later on, just as oh damn, I forgot they had this.
Just peek in.
Yeah, come around the corner.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah. Behind the shower curtain style.
No, yeah.
Whoa, hey, no.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so we're gonna keep rolling.
We can.
So that was quite a lot on defend the wall.
Yeah, well, you didn't expect that I was gonna go the other way, did you?
I didn't. You surprised me, Jameson.
There you go. Defend the wall.
Oh.
All right. So then next is the Haruma Ambusher. This is a crab character, Bushi Scout. It is a conflict character. Costs 2, military 2, political 2, glory 0. And reaction. After this character enters play as a defender, choose a character. That character's abilities cannot be triggered during this conflict.
Nice, right? Am I right, fellas? Here, this is good. I mean, it's it's. You know, hey, if you want, am I right? Am I right? No, you're
am
not.
I right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's bad ruse.
No,
I think that you just got to be a little careful that you don't overcommit a lot of fate, and you have some back to be able to play this 2 cost. So watching out for fate management. But we're looking at an above average conflict card here. I love the fact that it's a character. I love the fact that it's a reaction, because you're able to surprise it in. I love the fact that it enters play as a defender, so it's even more so sweet to do those ruse plays, I'm not going to commit anyone, and then all of a sudden from your hand you're like boom boom, out they come, these little ambushers, and then obviously your province then triggers and you get that ring. But I mean, it's decent stats, you're looking at 2 for 2 for 2, so it's not, and to be able to jump in and silence a character down,
it's pretty strong.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of this because it also gives crab good answers to cards like, I don't know, Lion Spread Brawler, which is pretty obnoxious. And there's a number of other great characters who trigger on the offense or just have conflict abilities that you don't want to have go off.
Doji Challenger.
Yeah, and so this has a lot of uses. There's a lot of good cards it can turn off, and it gives you a nice little counterplay.
Yeah, I mean, and plus the synergy is there, right? It enters play it's coming in as a defending player, so you're playing it on the defensive stuff, and defender has first action.
Yep, and it also
control the board right
0,
away, right?
So it doesn't even really get impacted by being dishonored, or anything like that.
No glory in an ambush, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like this card. I think this card has some really good plays, especially in control style builds, but also there's just a lot of good targets it typically tends to have. So I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not always going to have the best targets out there, but I mean,
it's still good stats for good cost.
Yeah.
So cool.
I feel like being a 2 for 2/2 is very average, right? Or it's very average. That's sort of the expectation, right? 2 for 2 military, 2 political seems very average. When you start looking at, like you mentioned, Corey, when you start looking at Lion Spread Brawler, when you look at Doji Challenger, I cannot remember her name off the top of my head, but one of the Isawa, the sister, the one that has you can use an action and all participating characters are at a -1/-1.
Oh, the Scary Grandma?
Yeah, Scary Grandma. Like when you start looking at all these action abilities that are very, very strong going into a conflict that you want to disable as soon as the conflict starts, when your opponent initiates, this card is a great nope ability. Well, for that effect. You get a 2/2 that's going to be someone that's average stats. It's going to add to both military and political, so it's balanced that way. And you can straight up say, hey, this ability that I think you're going to wreck me with, it's out. You're done. You don't
Yeah.
get to do
Yeah,
it.
and you know what? The last point that I just want to make on this, it's something that kind of gets overlooked when we look at these cards. In, I know we're not assigning the values, but something that kind of tips this into almost a upper tier card is the fact that it's only one influence if you want to experiment with it out. I mean, that's a very strong ability on reaction at the right time. So having this cost one is very, very lucrative.
Yeah.
I missed that. That's insane. One influence for this card's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty nice.
Wow. One influence is amazing.
Mm-hmm. So splash away. Have a good time with it.
Splash
Alright.
in the pool.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Okay. Next up is Jade Tetsubo. This is a crab attachment. Jade. It's a weapon. It's cost 2, military +3, political +0. It is an action. While attached characters participating in a conflict, bow this attachment. Choose a participating character with lower military skill than attached character. Return all fate on that character to its owner's fate pool.
Well, if I have learned anything from Hearthstone, anything Jade is awesome.
Easily translates over to
Easily.
this game.
Hey.
I mean, so like cost, right? 2 for a +3 stat bonus. That's not terrible, but it's pricey for sometimes, especially with the prevalence of Let Go. Like paying 2 for an attachment.
I got so many proxies. I got so many proxies, man. It's like what
Yeah.
is
Yeah, it makes it a little scary to
Proxies
invest
for
to
days.
know that like one of
Decks
the
for
most
weeks.
splashed cards can just tell it to go away.
Yeah.
The effect is interesting. So I mean, I think it helps you do the attrition, but there is something to be said that you're kind of giving that money back to your opponent to reinvest. So you have to kind of think about, okay, now what conflict cards did I turn on for them to be able to play? You know, now are they just going to play a character out of their hand now that I've given them some fate? Or, you know, now what if they flip their champion? Now they have a boost in the economy over me to go to the next turn. So there's some things you have to weigh to find out if the value of this card is worthwhile. Now, not trying to talk about anything outside the core set, but there is that really janky combo that someone came up with this foiled Phoenix card that you can knock the fate off of it and then take some of it into your own pool. That's silly. I don't think that still makes this card good. I don't think this card is bad. I put this card as like mediocre. So it's just like, yeah, you know, if you're struggling you need another attachment for some reason.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm not like, this doesn't immediately go in decks. Right?
Okay. Here, I will preach this from the father of attachments. This card is junk right now.
Yeah.
Junk. I have honestly, I've experimented with it. This game right now in this, okay, let's get this straight. This right now, and tomorrow and the day after, I don't know after, like how much farther past after that. But right now, this card and our game is in so much attachment hate. So much attachment hate that this is very costly to have it pitched. Like I'm holding 2 fate back to play this card. That's another character that I could potentially put into play. Now, the only good thing about this card is the +3 is tremendous. Having like throwing down a +3 onto something can definitely swing a battle in your favor. But this is just too costly to be played in this time of the game that it's not worth it right now at all. 0. Goodbye.
Yeah. Goodbye.
I've played this in I've done crab testing with this, and again, because they know that there's gonna probably be no other crazy attachments that you're bringing out in crab, they're not even thinking. They're just like, as soon as you put this on, they're like, Dragon is one of the most splashed factions right now, so they're either going to be, pop, let it go. And then I've even played against at the store championships where people aren't even on the same wavelength as me, and they're still playing with the mystics, and I'll get rid of my mystic, and I'm like, oh my god, who's still playing with those things in their deck, right? So I mean, it really hurts. And then I've played it, experimented with it as in the attachment faction, as Dragon is my main, and everyone's ready for something like that, right? Like they're ready for you to build up one guy, make that juggernaut. You put this onto something, if the stars align and you're getting +3 military in Dragon as an attachment, you're like, oh Jeebus, look out. But dudes, 90% of the time it's getting chucked.
You're just throwing the 2 fate away.
Yeah. And it's
now
and
with Damio's favor, is this worth 1 fate? So
hey, okay,
there you go. Now you're talking.
But now you're like, now you're digging deep for that prize in the cereal box, dude. You're trying to get right to the bottom, and you just opened the box. Like, eat your way down to it.
It's just Jade in the cereal.
Jade.
Jade cereal.
I'm gonna throw some shade
trademark
on this Jade, man.
Oh.
No,
yeah.
Like, and honestly, if you
I'm
know
not
bad
lie,
publicity, that is as real talk as you can get right now. Normally, it's from another window. Circle takes the square today, and that's the real talk about this Jade attachment.
Not gonna lie, after your defend the wall stance, I wasn't sure which direction you were gonna go. You were like pausing.
I thought he was gonna be like Jade Tetsu. Awesome. Like no.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
this
what?
is one of the best cards. Hands down.
Yeah.
Of course.
You know what? I'm after all our years here of friendship, fellas. I'm glad I still can keep you on your toes and surprise you.
Yeah.
I sort of want to add this to this because I very much agree with the opinions here. I think the card is mediocre. I don't think it's very good. For all the reasons you said, it's 2 costs for a +3, and the additional ability that I think is the leverage for the 2 cost is mediocre because it's not good, even when we still know that this card / property exists in the game. Okay, but it's a great card. But even beyond that, I think the issue is like there is this really weird fate payment. I'm gonna just say plan. So you get 4 cards to potentially buy unless you have the ability to flip over cards. And there's something really interesting. Like I think that because we know Assassinate is a very common card right now in the current meta, and we know that the average deck is running 2 to 3 of it. Most of them are running 3, I think. Or at least I feel like most of them are running 3. Heavily investing in a card that costs 0, 1, or 2 is a very risky strategy that you pretty much are hedging a bet on. You like if you invest any fate at all on a card that costs 0, 1, or 2, you are probably crossing your fingers when you do it, and you're like, if this works, I'm winning. If it doesn't work, I've lost value. And so knowing Jade makes you initiate that challenge to return fate back to their pool, to me is like, I think there is a point where you don't want to overcommit resources from fate because you know that the cards that you can play in your existing, the existing cards you can play that are available to you are not cards you should invest in. So there is a scenario where giving your opponent the fate back is not a very beneficial condition, but there's also times where giving your opponent a fate back is huge, right? They have the Dragon Champion, or the Lion Champion, or the Crane Champion, or effectively any champion. And before, they had a card where they're like, okay, well, I invested 2 extra fate on this guy. I guess he's not really useful. When I flip on the next phase, well, now my champion's going to come in with, I'm going to invest 7 fate because I can, 8 fate because I can, or, total. Giving this champion 3 additional fate on it. It's going to last forever. Even if you dishonor it, even if you cloud the mind it, that is a fair number of turns that I have to use cards within my deck to interact with it, reverse those conditions, and make the card useful again. And while I'm spending resources to reverse those conditions, I don't have to pay the 5 cost again to put it back into play. That's significant. Like, you have to remember that, this game is very much based... So much of this game is tiny little incremental advantages that affect the overall board. And so when you give your opponent 1 or 2 fate back, and that's 1 or 2 fate on a champion or a doji challenger or alliance pride brawler, that's pretty significant.
Yep.
So
it's all about Hollis's favorite thing. We call them microtransactions.
oh, okay, we're done.
Right? So
As a service, we're done.
If you want to pay 2 fate to put this little skin on your character,
Yeah.
dress them up. If you want to turn your Walking Dead Negan into a Jade Samurai Negan here with his Jade baseball bat instead of Lucille, then hey, maybe that's worth 2 fate to you. But to me, it ain't.
If I may also, I think that a lot of the other, like I feel like in order for, especially knowing Let Go is cost 0, and it destroys some of the amazing attachments that are in this game. I feel like if you were going to have an attachment that's more than 1, because I think if you would ask me, Cloud the Mind is top tier in attachments in this game.
Yeah.
So
and then to bank on that, it's like right now, build a deck that only has 2 copies of Cloud the Mind in it, send it to Corey and be like, hey Corey, what do you think about this deck? He's like, oh, it only has 2 copies of Cloud the Mind.
Yeah.
That's your mistake.
Yeah.
You should have 3 of them.
I mean, I'm like, dude,
Lion.
that's the only.
I don't want you to run any copies of Cloud of Mind.
That's the only
But
thing.
even
That's the
I will
only
tell
thing you see.
Like, you sure? You sure that's what you want to do? Because I'm gonna bring a Spirit Caller or a Brawler out.
And then,
hey, what
You're
can
sure
you
gonna
cut?
wish you
What
had
can
one in
you
your
cut
hand.
to get another Cloud the Mind in there? I'm like, oh god.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like in my opinion, like Cloud the Mind very much like, well, there's a lot of great attachments in the game, but I think like Cloud the Mind especially sets a bar for what you expect out of a 1-cost neutral attachment. Yeah. So like when you look at like a 2-cost attachment, you think it's got you in your head. You're going, this has to be ancestral. Like, well, even 1-cost. You're thinking it's got to be Kitsuki's Method or Ancestral Daimo. Is that correct? It's got to be on that show. It's got to be that level. When you think 2 costs, you're like, I will take nothing less than pacifism, and even pacifism is a question mark sometimes. Like the attachment needs to be great for you to ever invest in it, knowing that your opponent can play a 0-cost card that just removes it. So, like, knowing that this card doesn't hit that mark ever, like not at all. Maybe if this card was like if this card was somewhat like height of fashion, and like or the card costs 1 even, like. But I feel
think
like
maybe if the fate didn't go back to your opponent's pool, if it just knocked fate off characters.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, I mean, it just feels like giving your opponent the fate back is the problem. Because like a 2-cost for 3, you're like, that's not very good. That's like that's below average. But then when you're like, wait, but I give you your fate back, that can seem better. Like look, if I look at what's in your provinces, that could be worse.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe.
Yeah. Like, your opponent could be like, well, thanks. I guess this champion's coming out. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'll try again next turn. See if I can put this fate on. I guess you're right. I really shouldn't have put all that money on that guy.
Yeah, but that's when you're like, you can't try again because you're going against Defend the Wall. And boom, got the ring effect.
That'll never happen, ever. But anyway.
Lingering theme.
Sorry, that was a lot for Jade.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey,
I can't believe we talked that long with Jade Tetsubo. Yeah. So next we have a pretty cool card called Levy. Remove from game, 5 credits. Just kidding. Sorry. Cross gaming foul. It's a 0-cost crab event. Action. Choose an opponent. That player must select 1. Give you 1 fate or 1 honor. And it is 3 influence. So this is a pretty neat card. I feel like when it first was spoiled or talked about, it was incredibly undervalued in how powerful this ability is. But I think it opens up some really interesting strategies as you see more stuff develop for like Crab Dishonor theme decks, and Crab decks also tend to love to do like a choke style where they try to like grind out your resources and attrition. This card plays into that incredibly well. And it's also a very interesting card for Splash with other clans that might be trying to do Dishonor style builds. It's an interesting choice because, again, a lot of times your opponent doesn't want to give you free fate, but if you crunch them down enough in honor, they kind of are left where they don't have any choices. Or if they have no fate, then they have to give you the honor. Pretty neat.
Pretty
I mean,
pretty neat.
Yeah, I like this card a lot. This card's not like it's not like in every crab build, but there are some good builds you could put this deck in. Some really neat themes that I think this card's going to shine in.
Well, I don't want to be the guy to say it, but hey, do tell Corey, because I'm not seeing it.
What?
For Levy?
Yeah, I'm not feeling this one, man.
How?
Yeah, man, have you not been in like the stranglehold and then your opponent plays Levy on you?
No.
Oh well. One day.
It's so good.
But opponent
It's
selects,
so good.
man.
Opponent selects if they have a choice. But there are also sometimes where there's not a good option to give. Like some crab dishonor that's pushing you like really heavy into honor loss, and they're like nickel and diming you in honor. Like you picking to give them the honor could take you out of being able to play assassinate, could make it where you no longer can let a province go undefended. All of a sudden makes certain ring effects a lot more disastrous because now you're nearing dishonor range. And then you could get to the point where like I can't give up any more honor. And then now you're at the point where you have to give fate to your opponent, and your opponent did nothing. And the other thing about this card, it's also really good stall. Because if you come in and then you have to do something to keep taking actions before the crab can just pass, they can just throw a levy as a stall action to make you still have to keep doing something. And if you pass, then they can just be like, well, you're not breaking, so I'll pass.
So every time I had this talk with a guy that I play very regularly with up here, and so he feels that his go-to for just kind of getting that honor swing is what's it called, the one that with the caravan thing on it?
Contingency plan?
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, I think you could double it up, but I think that out of Corsa, it's really hard to go straight dishonor. And you might be like pushing it too far in one direction to not allow you to kind of pivot backwards. I feel like you get more versatility with Levy. But as I said, I think this card also is going to open up other things as we get outside of Corsa.
So then you're saying maybe you're feeling the same way that I'm just not saying that. I'm not seeing, it's not jumping out at me right now. So maybe this is future potential. I mean, it's rated as a 3 influence card. So, I mean, granted, like, let's go on record now and say that FFG hasn't been the best at influence values in core set cards in the past. So I don't know if that theme is going to stick. We're going to have to see things flush out. But this is a 3 influence card that is just not really fascinating to me right now.
I disagree, but that's okay.
No,
I think it's
a discussion, and
I'm
not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't see it as maybe as amazing that you guys are seeing it right now. I mean, hey, that's what makes the show, right? A little discussion.
In a Game of Thrones, there was a card for the Night's Watch. Even when Night's Watch was really, really bad. Actually, I think they're probably still bad. But in Core Set, there was a card called A Meager Contribution.
Yep.
And what that card said was that after your opponent collects income, gain 1 gold from that player's gold pool, add it to your own. And like that card, when you look at like the Night's Watch cards available to them, that was at the time, again, I didn't say current with the game, but I know in core, that was one of the best cards in the game, because when you look at it economically, like you are directly taking resources away from your opponent. Even if your opponent, if you get 7, your opponent gets 7, now they get 6, now you get 8. Even if it seems small, the incremental advantage gained by taking a resource from your opponent was fairly significant. Now, in this game, you basically have 2 economies, right? Or multiple economies, because you have your fate economy, you have your actual honor economy. Because the truth is, cards like Assassinate utilize your honor as an economy cost. So I would look at it as saying, like, a card like Levy, while I only take one, and while my opponent gets to choose, that one they give me is either an investment onto a card that I want to play for my province, or it's to essential strategy I have with honor, or assassin,
or it's an advancement towards a win condition, right? So
right. So either way I look at it, there's a bonus.
Yeah, and also you think of, like, even if they just give you the honor, right? Well, you can just reinvest that to replace itself next turn when you do the card draw.
Yep, that's true. You can just say, okay, you give me extra honor. You know what? I was gonna bet 3. I'm betting 4. Even if you bet low, the fact is I have an honor now to draw additional cards that you don't draw. It increases my advantage. I lose less comparatively to that honor bid. So this is appropriate. And of course, there's other little tiny bits about that as well. Like if you know you're gonna also if you're gonna have duels, taking your opponent's honor is a fairly good thing. And again, I don't know how prevalent this will be. In my head, Crab will have some of the highest number of duels in the game. Like, if I'm wrong, because, like, thematically, that would make a lot of sense.
We'll see.
But I don't know.
We'll see.
You mean they'll be...
I don't know how much they're going to flesh out the duel mechanic, and I think that's what we really have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Like, what...
I have to agree with Corey there. I'm kind of wondering how prevalent dueling will be, and then we hate to talk bad about this mechanic, but I think it might just be like bad publicity was in Netrunner, right? Like something that was, hey, look at this is something in the core set, and then it wasn't really in the first cycle that much, and then the second cycle it kind of like picked up, and then after that it was just like meh, right? Like, yeah. So we have to see if that becomes a something that's balanced across the board more. But so I think that's pretty much Levy, right? Like, I'm honestly I see what you guys are saying. You know, you've pumped it up enough, but I still don't think it's amazing right now. I think it's
okay.
I think it's
cool.
Solid middle.
Solid middle.
Solid
right.
One thumb up.
So next we'll move on to Rebuild. This is a crab event, cost 0 action. Shuffle a card in one of your unbroken provinces back into your dynasty deck. Choose a holding in your dynasty discard pile. Put that holding into play in that province. Influence cost 2. This card could potentially be great if it was good for you to recycle holdings, but right now I don't really feel like there's any holdings that you really care to recycle unless you're just doing it in crab to try to trigger your holding characters, which if this is the route you're going, it's probably not a good way to do that. So as we start seeing more impactful and better holdings, and maybe if crab starts seeing a lot more characters that benefit and do stuff with holdings, this card could find a really good place in the faction. Right now, I think this is an easy pass for deck building. Because I just don't think there's enough good targets, or there's probably better things you want to use your deck slots for. So I put this card as high future potential to be pretty cool, because what it does seems great. You just need to get good targets for it to do it with.
Yeah. I mean, same opinion. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's pretty on point, Corey. Like,
thanks.
I have no additional input. That's just that's the truth. Like, there's not enough holdings that are that beneficial to warrant me playing this. Could it be good? Absolutely. But we would need to get to that point. We would need to get to the point where there's enough holdings to where I would want to play this. Most decks run at maximum 6 holdings, and they're usually a combination of 3 Imperial Storehouse, maybe some favorable grounds. If you're Scorpion, you're gonna do the Forgotten Library and others. I don't know.
If you're Scorpion, talk about if you're Phoenix.
Oh, sorry, if you're Phoenix. Excuse me. If you're Phoenix, you're gonna do Forgotten Library. Wow.
You lose.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Rip. But most people aren't playing more than 6 or 7, holdings.
If
because
that.
Yeah, I mean, like you want to avoid the scenario where you have that nightmare all 4 holdings. So that being the case, the game would need to change as such that this card would be super beneficial, and we're not there. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Cool.
I
Keep...
think that this is a common theme here, I guess. I think this could be really, this could be a this could be a crab singing card, man.
It could be.
Right? I mean, we talked before about how crabs like to have the holdings in play. So Hollis already mentioned favorable ground. What about, funeral pyre? Like bringing, that kind of back through. What are you shaking your head?
That's not a good one. Again. So like looking at the named holding, right? The one that's coming out in the first pack, that's a cool one to bring back because you can only play with one in your deck. So that's cool.
Oh,
I think if you're going to bring back anything, Borderlands Fortification might be a better target, just to try to stall your opponent out and make it where they can't break your province. But that's even that doesn't feel that great right now.
I don't think that that I'm not seeing it moved out of faction. Really right now, I think it has a good home in Crab, and I think as our card pool grows and Crab's ability to synergize with holdings, this one could be one to keep an eye on. I feel something could be here in Rebuild.
Yeah,
not at this moment, but it's man. Flag this one and put it on your watch list because this is I feel this is one that could do damage.
Good. I feel like this is definitely a card. If we get to Gen Con of 2018, we want to revisit this card. Like we want to say, okay, where's the game now? And are there available holdings that make this card worth it? I have a suspicion, however, that they will go in an entirely different direction. I have a feeling that by 2018, when we get to Gen Con, FFG will know maybe it's best to make more impactful holdings that do more, considering you're losing a character, because that is massive in this game. Yeah. I have a feeling FFG is going to go a different direction with like how holdings work as far as losing characters, and if they do that, cards like this are going to be in one way less powerful and in another way more powerful. But again, this is all conjecture. I'm going to wait and see. I'm with you, Jameson. I'm sitting on my hands. I'm waiting a year. We're gonna see what happens.
What about as a surprise?
Mark your calendar.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if you played it. Yes.
I just mean if you get a holding that can add more of a plus, and you can pop this back into the conflict.
Well, like I was saying, like Borderlands Fortification, that might be like your best option. To try to stall them out from taking a province, or bringing it in and then switching to save a card that they're trying to break out of a province. That's a little sneaky, but that's it.
All right.
So
yeah, let's move to something that probably is more unanimous across the board then.
Yeah, Reprieve.
I wonder.
So Reprieve is a crab attachment condition, cost 1. No military political bonuses, but it has an interrupt ability. When attached character would leave play, discard this attachment instead. 1 influence cost. Excellent card. This is a staple. You will see 3 of these in every crab deck, and some decks will want to splash to take this because it's pretty much like an influence you can tack on later, or a fate to tack on later to keep someone from going away. There's also some really cool interactions with characters that pop into play and then discard, and you can reprieve them to keep them out. There's a lot of really cool actions and things that Reprieve can help you out with. This card is phenomenal right now. Boom. Why? Because it's an exact trade-off, right? Like where it lets you come in later when needed. Look at the board state, right? Like I want to move a character into play. I want to keep him around. What's it going to cost me? 1 fate. What does Reprieve cost me? 1 fate. You're not losing anything. It's pretty much neutralized. And then not only that,
not only does it give you the same thing as putting one fate, the exact cost of this card, but what it's doing is it's stopping in neutralizing all those shitty tricks, right?
It's awesome.
Right?
Wait, did you just play Jade Tetsubo? Because if you did, I want you. You should know this card isn't leaving play. Like you should know this card is going to remain on the board if you play Jade Tetsubo. Like, I don't even want to waste time. I literally have nothing to add. Card is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great card.
Like I said, it neutralizes all of those discard, like, get rid of the guy effects. This is saving him for the same cost of putting one fate on it. And like I said, you can. It's awesome. I love to use it in Dragon. So it's awesome to pull out a faction as one, like you guys mentioned. But I love the fact that I'm able to not spend my fate early on a character. I can read the board state. I can see what's coming in. I can see how much my opponent is committing already, and then this is the guy that I need. Let's save him up. Or I'm like,
it's also a way to protect against Void Ring. Like, they void your fate off somebody, and they're like, he's going away, and then you're like, reprieve, JK, he's still here another turn.
Well said, right?
So,
well said.
Yeah. Pro tip: you can't play reprieve during the Dynasty step.
So they assassinate. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, reprieve's an excellent card. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So ready to keep moving?
Yes.
All right. Next we have another conflict character. The other conflict character for Crab, the Stoic Gunzo. He is a Crab character Bushi. Cost 2, military 2, political 1, glory 1. Action. During a conflict, sacrifice a friendly character. This character gets +3 military until the end of the conflict. 1 influence. So, I'm a big fan of this card, in the sense that he's another card that plays into the sacrifice mechanic that the Crabs like to play around with. But this can be a huge swing as far as military goes. You drop him in 2 for 2 military, and then you sack some cheap guy like, I don't know, Eager Scout or Caillou Envoy that's giving you a fate back and drawing a card. Then all of a sudden you get another +3 military, so now you paid 2 for 5 military into the conflict. It's pretty cool just to drop this guy in. He's got a lot of versatility. He's not going to do really anything on political, but that's not why you play him. You play him to pretty much be like a sledgehammer to throw down in a military conflict. And so for that, I think he's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have to agree. I flip-flop when we were looking at this guy before. I really like his ability. I really like the conflict characters that come in. In this case, he has the glory. So he can be played off there. I struggle with the 2 cost for 2/1, but if you're putting him in to use his ability and you can't, or you're putting him in and you can use his ability, like there's somebody to sacrifice, getting that +3. I've already said it with the Jade Lucille one. That +3 is really crazy of a swing. So if you're putting it in and you're able to get +3 on something, he becomes worth the fate that you're paying for the stats that you're getting. If you're not able to pull off his action, I feel that you've overspent for him.
Mm-hmm.
The only possible negative thing the only truly negative thing I can say about this card is that it is almost, in the current meta, it's almost the epitome of high risk, high reward. Like if you look at Eagle Scout costs 0 and it's a 0/0, right? But that card's coming into play as Crab as a card to sacrifice for Crab abilities. Mm-hmm. So think about this. So for example, Eagle Scout is a 0/0. It's whatever. Like you don't really, what you lose is a character on that province that has meaty stats, right? That's the cost of playing Eagle Scout. But what if you have a 1/1 or something similar? This card is a 2-cost character with the Bushi trait. Granted, that's good.
Yeah.
So 2-cost Bushi character that you can sacrifice probably another weenie to boost this card by +3 to military.
Sacrifice my weenie.
But it's
Whoa.
but it's a sacrifice. Excuse me. But you're susceptible to assassinate.
Yeah. He can just be killed out after you sacrifice another character to him.
Right. And to me, that would be the scariest, is knowing that I could go, well, I got a 1/1, and he's not really doing much, so here, we're going to get rid of this character. My Stoic Gunzo gets a +3 and to military. And of course, that's your action, and your opponent's like, well, I assassinate, so now you've lost 2 characters to boost this one. And, like, that does suck. But now, when that doesn't happen, he's awesome.
He's pretty great. Yeah.
He's awesome, right? Like, like effectively, like when you look at Eagle Scout, when you look at other weenies, like that makes him. I say weenies because that's what they call him. Like yeah. When you look at other weenie characters, like that makes him a potential, like 5/1.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
With all the weenies that you sacrifice, and you're gonna have a bunch of viruses going around here, man.
Dude, yeah.
Thrones reference.
Dude, I'm just saying everybody uses protection. Like all I'm saying is like with all the weenie, like if you sacrifice really weak characters,
with all the
5/1 is good. So many weenies. All right, Jamie.
And folks, and this is why you tune in. This is the type of high-end content you've come to expect.
Totally mature.
Publicity.
But you know what I'm
get
saying.
this
Like,
anywhere else, man. What are you talking
basically,
about?
it is a high risk or high reward card. It's one of those scenarios where if you play this card, you understand completely that your opponent can assassinate it, and at this point you've put a lot of investment into it. Investing another card from your province that you've played, like Eagle Scout, or even a 1/1 anything, and then sacrificing that card to make this card a +5, and then this card get assassinated. To me, at the point where you've now invested two cards to have this great thing, and your opponent just assassinates it and ruins it. That's pretty significant. Like that. That's a big deal.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost,
you can
it's
be mitigated a little bit.
Another...
Sometimes the guys that you're sacrificing is probably someone who's already kind of expended like an ability or done something.
Yeah, he's.
But yeah, he's bowed. But that's still, you paid money to play this character. You've then taken actions. You think about your turn, right? 2 fate, played him. Your go. Sack someone to him. Your go. Killed. Oh, cool. So
you're like, oh,
it's a tempo. Me. It's a tempo hit.
Yeah.
So you gotta be aware of it.
Yeah. The card is not. It's not bad.
Right. It's not bad. You just have to be aware of the risk. And I think Hollis is 100% right. It's high risk, high reward. Again.
60% of the time, he's right all the time.
God, no.
All right. So next, we're going to keep on moving. We go to the Mountain Does Not Fall. This is a crab event, a technique, cost 1. Choose a character. Until the end of the phase, that character does not bow as a result of conflict resolution while defending. Influence cost 3.
The Mountain Does Not Fall.
So one of the things about crab is crab have a very strong economy efficiency.
This card is awesome. I'm first to say it.
Yeah, I know. Thanks. First, but they also like to get a lot of work done with a small amount of characters, and this is one of the cards that plays into it. You played that really sweet Heated Casada. Guess what? You can defend with that Casada, bounce your opponent off, and then turn back around and then take a province with Casada.
Well said.
You can just get a lot of good work done with your characters. That Borderlands defender that someone for some reason has played a Sashimoto on, it's going to defend that political challenge, not bow, attack military, not bow, and then come back and defend that military, not bow, and make your opponent lose his freaking mind. The true story has happened to me, and I just couldn't believe how much annoyance I was having from this little. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, it's a fantastic card.
Yeah, I echo everything Corey said except for that story part because that never happened to me. But he is on. you know, his train is on the right track. This card is going. This is going to be a staple crab card for years to come. This is one of those core set cards that ain't going away. Don't be shied away from that 3 influence. This is crazy to pull out of faction if you are aligned with crab.
Get on it.
Yeah.
Learn that technique. All right.
We're resolving conflicts, and so your Hitakasada goes home bowed. Wait, what? That's literally like that's actually your opponent. Like that's your opponent's reaction. You're like, he goes home bowed, and you're like, no, he doesn't. Man. And he's like, no, he doesn't, and you're like, what? I'm sorry. Hello.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. You know what? Hollis 100% there, right? Like, and you know, you're talking about what you are getting in return for 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like basically you're having 2 guys on the board of the same guy. You're like you cloned them. Imagine 2 Van Dams, man.
Man. You're like, and what if one went back in time to like try to kill the other?
Right? 2 twin brothers. Right?
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, it's like I do a military challenge. There's Hitakasada. You don't defend? That's fine. I'll win the conflict, thanks. And we're gonna bring him home. He bowed? I don't think so. We're just gonna bring him back. He's not bowed.
Well, so you did that on the attack. So you play Indomitable Will on that chance. He's just gonna give you the correct card.
Thank you.
But Dragon players like both of these cards. Because they just like to have one guy who's loaded up Voltron to come wreck base back and forth and never bow doing it.
Yeah,
like,
and that's why I'm saying, man, when you invest so much in like one guys like these factions do, and the swing that you're getting and the value out of them for one fate, one fate,
it's very efficient.
Yeah,
and again, that comes into play as I mentioned earlier. Crab have really great efficiency in their economy. Yep. Between a lot of like the fate producing abilities on a lot of their dynasty characters, to their fate cards allowing them to get a lot of work done with a small number of guys. And I know I've heard like a lot of people kind of, say that they struggle in core and they only had like a challenger try to go into top at Worlds. The thing is like the foundation is there. Like all these cards are there. It just needs that little bit of push. And it's all going to come together and it's going to be fantastic. So,
who doesn't like crab? It's so delicious. Anyway, okay.
Red lobster.
So we'll keep it moving. We've got 2 cards left before we wrap this up. So next is the Watch Commander. This is a crab attachment follower. Cost 1, military 1, political 1. Attached to a character you control. Limit 1 per character. Reaction. After an opponent plays a card during conflict in which attached character is participating, that player loses 1 honor, parentheses, unlimited, influence 3. Hollis thinks this card is garbage. Hollis, have you played against the Watch Commander before? I'm sorry, I can't hear you because you're muted. Probably to respect all.
Sorry. Yeah, I was yelling so loudly I didn't want to like ruin the stream. Like it's so not garbage. It's great. I'm mad about it. Why don't you talk about it, Corey? Tell me about it. Tell me about the card.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty cool card. If you're trying to, it helps a lot in the dishonor. But again, you mentioned earlier we talked about Levy, about the impact it has on both economies that you're playing with in your deck. And Watch Commander pushes really heavy into the honor economy to make you think about everything you play. How important is that to you? Are you willing to pay fate and possibly honor to do it?
But it is like super important. No.
Yeah. It's like super important. The Watch Commander is like, hey, I'm fine with you playing it. I'm just going to let everyone know. He's just like gossiping to everybody.
This
no,
card,
he didn't. I can't believe he did that.
Down at Gen Con we were playing, nothing stressed me out more than seeing this card come out. I'm like, we're playing a 1 core tournament. How the effort is every crab player that I'm playing against able to get out Watch Commander?
Yeah.
This
God.
this is very disruptive, a very disruptive card, and for that reason, it's good, man.
Mhm.
To be able, again, remember, honor is a win condition, and you are, I was gonna say a naughty word, but you are messing up somebody's win condition, right? You're
Yeah.
taking, you're taking that away from them, their life force. And played at the right time, this can just,
it helps. Yes. I mean, so like if you go, so one of the builds a lot of people are seeing potential and even sort of viable now is Dishonor Style Crab. So this card definitely pushes because it makes your opponent go like, oh, how important it is for me to win this conflict or take these actions because now I'm getting closer to being dishonored out, my opponent winning. The other effect that you go through as honor running can potentially get better and better and becomes a more viable archetype for deck building. This is now a defense mechanism against honor running decks because you play it and now they're like, well, now I want to play cards, but now it's making me get further away from my win condition of trying to get to honor because I'm losing it for everything I do. So now I have to weigh how important it is for me to win this to then make the road I have to walk to win this game a lot longer. It gives your opponent some hard choices.
Love the metaphor.
Thanks.
I dig it.
Yeah,
dig
it's
it.
a fantastic card.
Again, this is heavy on the influence. This is 3, but don't let that shy away from you. Alan, down in chat again, the chat is echoing things here. Let's just say that a great reason to splash crab. Jace, he Watch Commander is amazing. It's an auto include in every crab deck right now.
I feel like we should do like the movie where like Watch Commander, and then these are all like quotes. Amazing, Dave from chat. Fantastic. I'm so glad I took crab as my splash.
But I think that
one of the best splashes of 2017. Game Informer. Like what?
Right.
What? Why would you have that quote? Hello.
I think that we're just dealing with the reaction there, and we're not even looking like it's also just, hey, it's 1 for 1/1, right? And it's gonna do all that other stuff. So it's still, it's even giving you a little bit, of icing on that cake there.
And what makes it so fantastic is it has parentheses unlimited. The amount of times you can trigger it.
I know.
Yep.
That's why it's such.
That's
why I'm saying it's so frustrating to play against.
It's great. I feel like anytime I have to read this card out, I always highlight that. I'm always like, yeah. So every time you play a card, you lose an honor. Unlimited. Just be aware of that.
And maybe the unsung hero here is the follower trait.
Yeah,
to
maybe.
To be continued.
There's just I very much feel like
Commander 2.
If this card said each attachment or each event, I would be like, the card is good, right? Like if you said attachment or event, I'd be like, the card is good. But this card straight up says whenever any card is played.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, so you're at 4. I'm attacking. You're at 4. I'm at 2. Katana, have fun.
Yeah, like Hollis.
Like you're gonna lose an honor right now.
I feel like you and me aren't guys to use this term loosely, but this is bonkers.
Yeah, man, it is though.
You can't.
It is because especially when you're like, if you're the aggressor, which is uncommon for crab, especially like if you're the aggressor, or even if you're just, I mean, hell, it's crab. If you're defending, trying to prevent your opponent from breaking the province as opposed to just winning the ring conflict, like the ability to say, listen, you gotta hit 4, and right now you're at 3. How much is it worth to you? Do you want to play this bonsai right now? Because you're like, to win 100%, you got to lose an honor for this bonsai to give you yourself a +4, and then you're gonna lose another one. So, is this bonsai worth 2 honor to you right now to try to win? By the way, I'm probably gonna play a bonsai. Like, I mean, like, what do you think is the right answer?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
that's very challenging. I feel like the Watch Commander does that. It makes you, have to make those very difficult decisions, because again, as I mentioned earlier, this game is very much about these tiny incremental advantages. One honor right now, one fate right now seems small. When you get to turn 5, when you get to round 5, when you look at the whole thing and you're like, you know what, Watch Commander's lost me three honor. That's significant. That's an assassinate.
So this is a
Yeah.
microtransaction you can get behind.
This is a games as a service that I'm not even mad at. I mean, like, everyone's investing. I'm like, yo, just, I mean, if you're having fun, keep doing it. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Thumbs up.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's absolutely a thumbs up. But I do also want to go in and throw in, like, Hollis brings up a really good point. And as you play this game more and more, like, how much this game hinges on just small advantages. You'll find there's a lot of conflicts you'll play that you'll lose by like 1 or 2, and that's where you decide like I just have to let this go. You'll miss being able to play your key card by 1 fate. You know, you'll get your opponent down to like 1 or 2 honor.
Pun intended.
What? Stop.
Sometimes you have to let this go.
Oh,
No,
God.
no.
I'm just gonna,
Let go.
here's the second
But-
proxy. All right. Got
Yeah.
him.
But so that, I mean, so those little things, like, even they may seem like small, like little adjustments, they can make a big deal like a turn or 2 later. But also having that also lets this game give you a lot of ability sometimes to roll back and figure out like where the game went off the rails, or where you made like the bad decision that put you in an awkward position to then have to make like more poor choices or try to pull yourself out of the hole.
Mm.
So it usually goes back to you continuously playing cards when a Watch Commander was on the table.
Right.
So, all right, so we're going to end with this final card here. Maybe you've heard of it. We don't have the sweet proxy art that we can throw up that's been popping up, but this is Way of the Crab.
I don't have the proxy art.
Yeah. Way of the Crab. This is a crab event philosophy, cost 1.
This
Action. Sacrifice a friendly crab character. Choose an opponent. That player must sacrifice the character. Max 1 per round. Of course, it's a way, so you can't splash it.
It now needs some kind of flavor to, like courage, duty, sacrifice. If done on stream
always-
twice, automatically win game.
Yeah, that's right. It did get its cool art version with always be crabbing.
Oh, always be crabbing.
So yeah, this card is one of the best ways I think in the game. It's something that if you don't plan around it and know of its existence or respect this card, it will burn you hard. And sometimes that happens on stream, at a table at a very large convention. So respect Way of the Crab, because it does work.
Yeah, you respect this card
Yeah.
because it can cost you the game.
Yeah, so a big thing. So this is one of those cards that sparked a lot of conversation about timing and phases of the game that you can play actions. Because one of the things a lot of people didn't realize is that you can play this card during the Dynasty phase. And that's one of the areas where this card can become really impactful. Because if the crab player goes first and they bring out an Eager Scout, you now have to think of what your first buy is. Do you have someone really cheap? Cool. Throw them out there. You kind of have yourself a little bit of buffer for the Way of the Crab you. But don't just invest and bring out some big character and put a lot of fate, because you're just asking for it. But this card has a lot of places where its impact is felt. You know, like a character comes in, does something, they're bowed. Now your opponent could be like, well, you only have, I have a character advantage on you, or all you guys have fate and some attachment or something, so I'll Way the Crab. I'll let you make the choice of who you want to get rid of, and I can deal with whatever remains.
Yeah,
It's a pretty powerful card.
Even though we said before, or I said, I'm on record now, that the previous card where you're giving the opponent choice, it kind of loses a little bit of the card value, but not here.
Right.
You're obviously playing this at a proper time to gain advantage. A little bit of setup on your side to have the friendly character in play to make sure that you're not losing out in a swing of of tempo and board state. But other than that, yeah, Way of the Crab is perfect. I mean, I've experimented with a whole bunch of different, probably the whole rainbow of factions, and sometimes when I'm building a deck, there are factions out there. I'm not going to name names right now, but that I haven't put their ways in. But not Crab. I'm telling you that this is another auto include, that this way, like you said, Corey, is one of the best in the game.
Yeah, super impactful. Like if your opponent has to play around it, they have to make decisions and even do their buys. Even thinking at the end of the turn when they're looking at what's going away and what's staying, like they have to think to those levels of how the board state's going to be, because there can be windows where Way of the Crab can just gut punch you super hard.
You always you are, when you're playing against Crab, you're playing around the potential that this card is in your opponent's hand. Silence.
Sorry. I mean, like to add to that, I'm kind of very, very happy that this exists. If for no other reason, but because if you look at like other games we often like talk about, like for example like Netrunner, like we often mention card checks exist to help mix things up and to change like the standardized way you play the game, and those nuances are important. They keep the game fresh. They make games interesting. So you may say, okay, 9 out of my 10 matches, I play this way. But am I versus this particular faction? Well, that changes. Like I know because of this, I have to change that. And actually from a competitive standpoint, I think competitive players kind of live for that. Competitive players love when like they know that there's these nuances that exist between like faction to faction. How you play a dragon deck, well, yeah, sure. How you play a dragon deck versus a scorpion deck versus a lion deck versus a crab deck is different from each one. And I think that is, I feel like those nuances are actually part of the reason why competitive players enjoy, what they get out of the game, because they have to get used to the nuances. They have to memorize them. And crab, as we saw on stream, if you're not if you're not used to playing against crab, if it's not something that you encounter often, and you don't know this is a threat that is often in the air, it'll wreck you. It will do that. So I'm really happy. Like, I agree with everything you guys have said, but beyond that, I'm really happy from like a metagame perspective that this card exists, because it does teach people to play a very different kind of game.
Yeah, and I mean, and like you said, we saw that, right? Like we saw what happens, and it's about playing, and I think that's what makes epic games. Now, unfortunately, in epic games, there's going to be someone on the other side of that epicness, and like we saw on stream, you come out, you make your play because you didn't anticipate, or maybe you did. Maybe that person in their mind is like, listen, I'm going balls out, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm bringing in this character, but they didn't, they didn't respect the Way of the Crab. But the thing is then that challenge.
I don't think you have it in your hand. Put up 2 Fae. Oh, you did? Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. But then in their mind, right? They're like, can't have 2 of them.
Right. Surely doesn't have 2 in his hand. Here's another character, multiple fate on it. Oh, you had another one.
Hey.
I'm sorry.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, ain't gonna fool me again.
Yeah. You ain't gonna fool me again. Oh, yeah, you're right. All right, Jameson. Good reference. Good reference. Huh.
Well played.
Yeah. So, excellent card. And it's something to mention too, because Jameson talked about this. There are clans that don't play with their ways because they just don't really synergize, or they don't fit, or they're just not that great. This is not one of those cards. Like, it's excellent, and it fits. I mean, it definitely speaks a lot of the Crab Clan and how they want to play and what they want to do. So yeah, so that's Crab conflict cards, guys. We did it. We made it. We've accomplished that goal. Another clan in the books.
Yeah.
So, so I think our next episodes, when we catch back, there might be a little bit of a break. We might try to squeeze one out for holiday. But we'll start diving into some of the new packs coming out. Right? Is that what we agreed on?
Mm-hmm.
Since we're going to be getting 6 packs 6 weeks, so there'll be a lot of new cards to kind of break into, and then once we get through that, we'll kind of pick back up with some more of the core set breakdowns. So I know a lot of us are excited just to see a bunch of new stuff. I know the spoilers have been prevalent all over the interwebs, and it's been a lot of cool stuff to kind of check out. It's almost like every day we expect a new spoiler to be up there.
Yeah, and Publicity being your one of your sources, so make sure make sure that you subscribe. Don't miss those.
See if we get another one before all the packs start like exploding in your local game store.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, anyone else have anything else to add, or are we ready to wrap this guy up?
Yep.
I
put the bow on it. Oh, take the bow off it.
What I said earlier is still what I stick behind. Like near here at the end, I feel like a lot of the cards that are available in Crab that you can splash, really lend themselves well to other factions. Someone made a good point. Knowing Scorpion and their stronghold, they can still in honor. While it's a lot of influence, knowing they could potentially play a card like Levy is disgusting. Because that's the faction's already taking an honor from you. The last thing you want to do is give another faction. So I guess you'll give them another fate, and that's still bad, right? Like, it's still a really, really horrible thing to do. So knowing that like Scorpion as a faction can influence that card in and take honor from you is amazing.
I thought you were going to say stand behind your other comments before we started when you're talking about Golden Grams being the best cereal ever invented.
I mean, they are delicious, though. Like, anyone that says otherwise probably hasn't lived an appropriate childhood. But I'm not going there, Jameson.
Cookie Crisp ain't even a cereal. Someone just
took not even
and put milk on it.
That's not
I don't
believe.
Cereal.
I don't believe that fake news, Jameson. I don't believe it.
You can't trick me.
But basically, like, I really do like the Crab faction.
It's like taking like Snickers and just putting milk on it and calling it Snicker Crisp, right? Like, it's not a cereal, guys. That's a real cookie that someone just put in there, man.
Yeah, it's a tiny cookie. There's chocolate chips in it. Like, what are you saying? But anyway, like, I do like the Crab faction. I think that the available splash options are pretty flexible for a lot of different decks, and I think they're one of the strongest splash options available, and their best cards, of course, are very hefty in influence, so it's hard to actually fit them in. I know that for a fact, Dragon has influenced heavily from Crab because of like Stoic Gunzo and things like that.
Yeah.
From cards like Reprieve, where you want to remove Fate from you want to remove Fate from their Voltron. They're like, well, no, he's going to stick around for an extra turn. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that it lends itself really well to a deck like Dragon, where they really only have one main person or one main card they have often in a conflict. So,
and Reprieve counts as an attachment, so then they could get the buff off the Stronghold by having it on there. It's pretty funny.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty weird.
Yeah. Strange.
Grazie.
Cool. Yeah. So, Crab's great. Good Crab.
Well, yeah.
Well, Other last thing I want to throw in is I'm going to be at PAX Unplugged. I will be playing in the Grand Kotai. I will be the representative from Bad Publicity at that event. So if you see me, feel free to give me a shout, high five, whatever.
Do you still have cool. Do you still have Bad Publicity favors?
I may have a couple of them. I may hand out the first couple people who come across.
All right.
So I think I've got maybe like 7 or 8 left from our Gen Con excursion. So those may find new homes if you meet up with me at PAX.
There you go. If you watch this video to the end, there's the hidden Kinder surprise.
Hidden gem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go see Corey. Little bad publicity meet and greet, and he might have something for you.
Yeah.
Might be
Bring
a
goodies.
watch commander during play.
Okay.
Time,
Well,
but it might be something good.
all right.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Yeah.
right.
Guys, thank you very much for sticking around, hanging out with us. Always love the interaction we get with the chat. Great laughs. Love seeing the new faces, or I guess not faces, the new names and the old names mingling.
Yeah.
We're building a good following there. So if you haven't joined us in chat before, if you're listening to this at a later date, make sure you come in. It's warm and it's welcoming. Be part of the discussion, and we will catch you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Take care, guys.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.